Hello everyone, and welcome back to Canal Sidings for video number 8. This time it is number 8. I did get it wrong at the beginning of the last video. Got quite a bit more progress on several fronts, as I like to work, not just doing one thing at a time. So without further ado, let's have a look. First thing we'll look at is this vehicle that I was running around with a pair of wires sticking out of the top last time. I have now made it self-contained. It has its own battery and I've got the switches, etc. all installed in it. What I haven't yet done is anything to do fitting the cab. So let's have a look at what I have actually done with it. I have fitted the stop reed switch here, which actually is the one out of the bus. I was going to fit a new one, and I bought what I thought were stop reed switches from Gauge-Master, and they turned out to be simply normally open reed switches, which wasn't any great help at all. Oh, excuse me. So I've actually had to cut this one out of the bus because it was all part of the original chassis, which is why there's a few marks in it. I didn't originally believe I was going to have to use it, and I did try to get the reed switch out of it, but that's impossible as well. It's held in with some really sticky, gloopy goo. Anyway, that's the stop reed. Everything else is actually inside the vehicle. I have fitted everything onto this piece of strip board. So here's the on-off switch. Here, these three, is the charging socket, and the battery is fitted here. So I can flick that out. So let's tip it up and take that out so you can see what I've done. Okay, so we have the battery here, which actually had to be a smaller battery than was in the bus, simply because I couldn't get the 300 mAh batteries out of the bus into here. Just no room. So this is a 150 mAh 2.4 volt battery, and that poses another problem in that you can't charge it at the 30 milliamp rate that we typically charge the other Fowler batteries at. The manufacturer's specifications in Varta batteries specify 14 milliamps for the 10-hour rate, which means you charge it for 14 hours and it's about charged. It's strange terminology sometimes. And I've actually limited the current to about 14 milliamps with this resistor here and this resistor here, which are 68 ohm resistors, two in parallel, giving me 34 ohms, which that worked out just right to give me an average of 14 milliamps throughout a 14-hour charge. It's useful in that as the battery volts go up, the voltage across the resistors go down, so therefore the current falls as you get higher in the charge. So it's a pretty safe way of charging a battery. We've also got the connections to the charging socket here, which go through those resistors. I have then a 15 ohm resistor here, which is what I've used as the speed control resistor that slows it down to a more sedate pace, and then the on-off switch is here. These two wires, this one here and this one here, go to the reed switch and the motor, and there's another wire which you can probably just about see in there that connects the reed switch to the motor as well. So they're just in series, and then these two connect such that we get the right polarity to the motor, and if the reed switch finds a magnet, it all stops. That's it, simple as that really. So that's in there, and what you have to do in order to start it running is just flick the switch on and then simply put the roof back on and the vehicle will go. So that's the first part. Just try and switch it off. That's the first part of what I've done this month. So now I've just got the test track back on the bench, and I'll switch this on. Try not to lose the cab while I do it. Put the roof back on and run the vehicle. As you can see, the pace is reasonably good. I may try to drop it down a little bit more but I haven't got an 18 ohm resistor, so the next one. I tried 22 and I thought it was too slow, but maybe it's a little fast with 15, but it's far better than Fowler's road speed and runs quite nicely, so I'm quite happy with that. So we'll leave that, and we'll now go and have a look at something else which you haven't seen any of before, which is a new factory. So the next thing I've been working on is a Walthers kit. Now this is an American HO kit, some of you may know about. They are very good kits. They make very large buildings. I've got quite an aching arm holding this up actually. And they are quite expensive. I think this one's about £40, but it saves trying to scratch build something that is in essence quite complicated. So I'm going to put it down before it kills my arm. Okay, this is the actual picture of what the kit will look like. As you can see, it's okay. It's George Roberts printing ink, which is what they call it. That's their kit name, and it looks like a industrial building that could have been in the UK. We won't see it on Canal Sidings from this side. We will see it looking from that side. So we'll see the wall that you can't see here, and there will be a track running into it, but of course it won't have American wagons going along it. So we won't see this front side, but we will down the back of the layout see the fire escape, and I'm hoping I can actually make that last piece of fire escape look more British, i.e. not removable and collapsible like the Americans have. Anyway, we'll see about that. So let's open the box and have a look at what it is, and you can see what else I've got to do with it. So I have already started to work on it. That's nothing. This is the wall that you were looking at on the picture, which is what they call the front wall. So you can see the windows compared to my hand are quite large, and these two walls you'll hardly see. It's grey because I've primed it all. Let's just get to, this is the base, which I've now had to cut. I'll come back to that in a minute, but these are the two walls that we will mostly see. So just move it out of the way. This is what we're going to mostly look at on Canal Sidings, preferably at right angles to one another, which is quite difficult to arrange. It would be easier if I got that one the right way round. So it's very difficult to hold these up, but that's what we're basically going to see on Canal Sidings. Track running in there, wagons running in there, and there will be a buffer stop here, but there's a nice plain wall here, with windows high up, so it's quite a tall building. It's actually slightly taller overall than the Lancashire and Yorkshire warehouse, and it will stand right next to the Lancashire and Yorkshire warehouse, and I'll demonstrate approximately where that will go with these two pieces when we go back and have a look at the layout. But essentially it's quite a lot of painting to do. This area here, and as are all these areas, are actually brick textured, and this is meant to represent concrete. What I've done is simply sprayed it with an etching primer, which is called acid number 8, which you get from Halfords. This is what I used to prime it with. You do have to be quite careful because it is quite aggressive. It's meant for metal really, but I find it works really well on plastic because it does etch the surface a little and give you a bit more texture to work with. And I do intend to paint the brickwork a different colour, and then I will bring this up a little bit with a few more coats of greys and concrete colour, just to bring it more away from grey and more towards a concrete sort of muddy black. This is the base, as we said before, which I've had to cut because the back end of the layout, the back scene, sits here. So these walls go one here and one here, and this is where the track goes through it. Not done any more to that yet. Get rid of these walls. As you can see, lots of walls. And then we have this bit, which is mostly the fire escape. Hard to see. Which I have painted light green and then gone over with a puff of black, all done with aerosol cans, as I have with all the windows. Light green and then a puff of black to just get a decent colour. The original colour of them was black, but shiny black like that looks pretty awful, so I've taken most of the shine off. And the other bits of it are the roof, which I haven't done anything more to, a rooftop water tank, which is far too American. There's some doors there which are also done sort of greeny black, and you also get a bag full of window material as well. The instruction sheet isn't very clever, so I have a bit of... The instruction sheet's not particularly clever, but perfectly usable if I can find it. There we go. And all authors' kits have an instruction sheet pretty much like this. Cornerstone kits. Basically they give you a quick fit part 30 to part 31, fit part 50 to 52, and they give you an exploded diagram generally showing you where everything goes, and it continues over the page with the same narrative. And perhaps a little bit of assistance with painting. No, decaling is all they do. But as I'm not building it exactly like that, then there's going to be quite a lot of modifications to various parts. So that's something else that I've actually started work on, and we'll come back to that when we go to the layout in the next part of this video. So here we are back at the layout, and you can see that I have placed the two walls of the building we were talking about earlier, so that you can get an idea of where they go. And you can see that in this gap there isn't really very much space at all, and there may be some scope to push that building back this way a little further. That will depend upon what it actually looks like and how big it is when it's built. But it is nice that it has this plain wall here. There will be another building starting up here somewhere. I don't know how far you can see, but it will start up here. The fire escape of this building will come out here. And what I'm hoping to do is have another entrance to the goods yard that comes here, crosses over these tracks here, and comes onto the concrete apron that is going to be all the way around here. And it may just be possible to bring that track, that road across here, back to join onto this. Unfortunately there won't be any moving vehicles on that, because at the back of the layout here there's nowhere to turn them round, and I'm already going to have to put turning circles at both ends of the layout. I don't really want to make the layout wider by having another one over there. So that's it basically for that building. Something else you'll notice that is a little bit different is that we have some black plasticard placed on the front of the layout. Now what I've done is I've removed the cork, which was 1.5mm thick, and I've replaced it with 2mm thick plasticard. So there is a little bit of a drop there, but I've chamfered off the edges of the plasticard where it meets the cork, and I'm sure that I can lose that little drop in with the scenic materials that have still got to be put on the top. The reason for black plasticard is this edge along here looks better when it's black, because it won't chip. This paint then doesn't have to sit right on the edge as it did before and chip. The reason for plasticard is that I need to put the guide wire for the vehicle system into it, and it really wouldn't have worked in cork. It just wouldn't have held. So I've decided, as I think I said in another video, to put it in plasticard. It works really well. Cut with the alpha cutter, it drops straight into the slot and stays there. This plasticard is fixed down with some tiny little screws. They're 2mm by 7mm long, and the reason I've screwed it down is because it can't be fixed permanently until everything else is pretty much finished. But it needed to be fixed down so that where I've got the joins I could make sure the cuts were right. If the piece that you've just fitted keeps moving and doesn't have a defined position, then the next piece is not going to be cut very well. And I have actually now taken this plasticard all the way to the end of this baseboard. The next job will be to go to the other baseboard and add its plasticard for the road system, so that I can join the two baseboards together and plan exactly how the road system is going to work, and where such things as stop magnets and direction changers and detection magnets are going, detection reed switches are going to be. So that will be the next step on that, and once I know where it's coming out of the end of the second part, then I can start planning how we're going to get the vehicles to turn round to come back. The black plasticard is not going to form the actual road surface. The road surface will be formed by some of this, which is white 5 thou plasticard, and it will actually sit on top of the black, cut to size of course, and that's what that's where the paint will be applied and all the road colours, so that it completely hides the stop magnet holes and the holes where all the other accessories are, so it'll look like a plain road. The magnets, the guide magnets, work perfectly well over 5 thou plasticard. Unfortunately, this stuff is like gold dust. That is the size sheet that you can buy it in. Compare that to a standard plasticard sheet. Which is that. The standard plasticard sheet for 10 thou, if you buy it from Station Road Baseboards, which is where I get most of mine, I think is 43 pence for a sheet that size in 10 thou. These are over £1 each. The only place you seem to be able to buy 5 thou plasticard sheet now is from Evergreen Styrene. And don't they know it, they really load the price. So I've got a little bit of a plea going out to all the plasticard manufacturers out there, all the people who sell plasticard: bring back decent sized sheets of 5 thou plasticard. It is such a useful material. 10 thou is often too thick, 5 thou is brilliant. So please bring it back in sensible sized sheets at sensible prices, and not this overpriced, more than £1 a sheet touch. Okay, rant over. What I've also done is worked out exactly how we're going to do the turn for the vehicles at this end of the layout, and I'll move the camera and show you that now. So I've moved the camera and now you can see the extension piece to the end of the baseboard. I've made it black at this end so that it matches the fascia of the layout. It doesn't go all the way to the floor because that would have been a lot more material unnecessary. To keep it light, it's all made out of plasticard. There's no wood at all. It's all plasticard. I'll take it off and show you the construction in a minute, but basically the bed, the road bed, is 3mm plasticard. There's a bit of 2mm plasticard along this edge and some 3mm uprights that butt up against the the cantilever board, if you like to call it that, and that's what stops it from moving. You fit it by sliding it down. There are no screws, it just sits there. I'll take it off, as I say, in a minute. I've also fitted the guide wire all the way round, and if I put a vehicle on, you'll see that that vehicle will go all the way round. And come back out onto the layout. No guide wire on the layout, so I can't do much with it. There's plenty of room round here now for 3 or 4 stop magnets, so that we can hold vehicles out of sight, off scene. I need to just build this black front piece up a little bit higher, so it's the same height as these, which are high enough to completely hide all the vehicles. The vehicles don't hit the top. And I'm then going to build a top piece to slot onto it as well. For that I need to buy some more large sheets of plasticard. I don't intend to use thick, I should probably use 1mm. 1mm is all I've used around the edges. You don't need any more. Plasticard is a very strong material. The way you take this off is simply you lift. So I just put my hand under it and push, lifting up the layout, and it's off. And it sits on using this piece of 2mm plasticard, which sits down a slot that's been built here, which I'm not sure you can actually see. I'll bring the camera around so you can see what's on here in a minute. The 2mm plasticard sits into a slot there, and the 3mm plasticard bottoms out onto the top of the piece of material which is forming the slot, and the alignment left and right is done by this stop here and this stop here, which of course are round this way, so they won't allow it to move that way. It's so tight that it doesn't move anyway, but if it got loose with time they would still hold it in place. As you can see, the construction of this is fairly simple. The cantilever part is the fact that we put a piece of MDF. I seem to have lost my piece of MDF lying around. I don't know where that's gone. But it's 4mm MDF that is on the end of there that sits in that slot. It can't tip this way because this is stopping it, and it can't tip that way because this is stopping it. This is the offcut of the 3mm plastic that came from that piece. I also bought on eBay a lot of this 10mm square tube. It's not made by any one of the known manufacturers, so therefore it's very cheap. It didn't come from China, it came from a British source, but it is cheap compared to what you can buy from Evergreen. And I bought a large quantity of it, which I have used quite a bit of it now to strengthen this up, and I'll be strengthening the other end up the same way when I build it. So you've seen that. I'm not sure whether you've actually been able to see the mounting point. No, you haven't. What I'll do is I'll just handhold the camera for a minute and show you round that side. Okay, I've got the camera in my hand, so I'm a bit shaky now. What you can now see, I hope, is this piece of 4mm thick MDF, and down there is a slot, and that slot is where this 2mm edge fits, and the stop points there and there butt up against the ends of this, and so locate it. And it's a simple matter to just adjust the end so that this exactly matches the road surface on there. Okay, enough camera waggling. I'll go away and we'll have a look at one last thing before I close this video. And finally for this video, Huey has a new friend, who at the moment we're calling Son of Huey. As you can see, it's a long wheelbase version of the Series 1 Land Rover, and it's actually in British Railways livery, which is quite apt for what we're doing here. And the reason that we have Son of Huey is that my friend, who would have been asking where Huey is had I not included him on the layout, Len, keeps asking me if I am going to motorise Huey and have him running along the layout. Well, Huey is very small, and I'm just not prepared to even attempt it. However, the longer wheelbase Land Rover does have a bit more room, and what I've decided to do is to have a go at Son of Huey. And the idea is that I mount the drive motor and everything except the battery inside inside Son of Huey, and I mount the battery in this trailer, which is actually part of a kit, an airfix kit of a military vehicle, an American military vehicle. And that trailer looks just the right size when you take it out of this packet to form a good foil for Son of Huey, and to be able to fit a reasonable sized battery into, with just a couple of wires running along to allow it to drive the vehicle. So that's another plan. How long that will take me to even try to start, I don't know. It's going to have to be a pretty small motor, small gears. I'm going to have to find some wheels, all things that are not that easy to do. Excuse me. So that's where we are on that. Now I'm already fed up with calling him Son of Huey, so I'm looking for a name. Now, before you try telling me that we could call him Dewey or Louie, I'm afraid that as Donald Duck's nephews, and therefore part of the Walt Disney Company, I'm not prepared to infringe their copyright or their royalty or their anything of their company. They are a vicious company to deal with if you cross them in any way. So I'm not going to use either of those names. Huey has been around for a very long time, and although he is one of Donald Duck's nephews, I think we're getting away with that simply because the Huey name on that Land Rover has been there for too long. So Louie and Dewey definitely out. We won't mention them again. My current favourite at the moment is from a program that I particularly like, one of my favourite animated cartoon programs, Family Guy, and that is Stewie, who is Stewie Griffin, and it's almost the right colour as well. Stewie sort of is red and sort of khaki, so that's what I favour. But if anybody's got any better ideas or any other ideas for what we can call Son of Huey, then put some comments up, and the best one I will announce next time, and we will have another name. If I don't like any of them, then I will be going with Stewie. So I've rambled on long enough about Huey and Son of Huey, and I think this video is getting a bit long now, so I'm going to wind it up. I'm going to say thank you for watching, and give me some comments, give me some likes, feel free to subscribe, and I'll be back in a few weeks' time with some more. Bye everybody.